Talmor, Shishin Marachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Alexis Ohanian. You may know me as one of the co-founders of Reddit, but more recently, a large part of my identity is being a father to my wonderful daughters. In my podcast, Business Dad, I hope to open the conversation about working parents a bit. You'll get to hear from a wide range of business dads, from Rainn Wilson and Guy Raz to Todd Carmichael and Shane Battier, to find out how they balance being a dad with a successful career. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And I came into like the final audition when they were putting families together, and it was me and one other girl. And I remember going in, and for my family, there was a younger sister who looked like me. She had like brown hair and sort of olive skin, and I was like, "Yep, cool, she can be my sister." And then there was this little boy who played our little brother, and he was like had like bright blonde hair and like very pale skin and freckles. And I looked at him and I was like, okay, we'll make this work.
Maybe.
Like, that's fine. Like, I was 15, so I was like, or 16, however old I was. I was like, we'll be a family. And I remember absolutely like nailing the audition like I never had before. Like just being really feeling the character's emotions and being in it and feeling like a big sister that was protecting her sibling.
Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of Thanks for Coming In. I'm your host, Jillian Clare. If this is your first time tuning in, this is the show where I speak to fellow actors about their journey in the industry, and I make them share some sad or embarrassing audition stories, and we always have a great time. If you're not subscribed to the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now, wherever you're listening. You can also go to our show notes and check out the links there. We have a Patreon where you can watch the entire video of these interviews. There's Instagram, Twitter, all of that fun stuff over there in the show notes, so check that out. And if you would be so kind as to leave a lovely review for us, we would love you forever. Catching up on so many things in life. I feel like I've been doing so many things, and there's so many projects that are about to start, which I'm very excited about, and I can't wait to share more with you. Can't yet, but we will get there. And yeah, it's gonna be great. Today on the show, we have the wonderful, wonderful Mirabai Pease. She is so kind, so sweet. You may remember her from a couple of different New Zealand shows like Black Hands, Head High, Joint Venture, Harry. She is in the brand new Evil Dead Rise, and I'm so excited. We had such a lovely conversation, and I'm talking her into moving to LA so we can be friends. So here is my conversation with Mirabai. And welcome to the show, Mirabai.
Yay, thank you so much for having me, Jillian.
Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to talk to you. It's so bizarre because you are in the future for me. I'm in Los Angeles and you're in New Zealand. And how is it over there?
It's great. Yeah, it's great here in the future. Very similar, but yeah, it's really cold.
Oh, it's cold?
Yeah, it's really cold.
Oh.
We're like, cause is it hot there? You're in LA,
We're
right?
we're like in spring right now-ish, but it's like
Okay.
75.
Okay. Yes. We're maybe around there, but for me that's quite cold. So I'm not
You're like, I need it to be 90 and then I'll be happy.
I need it to be 90 at all times.
I get it.
I grew up in Australia, so I miss the heat
Oh.
all the time.
You grew up in Australia, but you live in New Zealand now.
Yes, yeah. Well, I've lived here since I was like 12. So,
Got it.
but I mean, I spent a lot of time in Australia,
That's amazing.
even past then. Yeah, it's cool.
So, obviously, we'll get to the new film that you're in because I'm so excited to hear all about it. But the first thing that I love to talk about on the show is how you got into being an actor, and more importantly, why you wanted to be an actor.
Yeah, as long as I can remember, I've wanted to be an actor for sure. I think that there's an obvious answer for me, which is I'm a crew baby. So my dad was a first AD through my whole life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I grew up on set, and but I think the confusion there is I'm a crew baby. So my dad was a first AD, so
Right.
I was very much
It's
like
not like
grew up.
nepotism.
Oh my gosh,
No.
no way. Like I I love set, and set always felt really tangible, and the film
Mm.
industry always felt really tangible. And I think I always looked at the actors like, "Oh, like that would be a fun thing to do." But the acting side of it specifically, I think more came from being in such a creative household. And
Mm.
I actually went to a school in Australia called the School of Philosophy. It's
What?
called John Collette. Yeah, and it's oh my gosh, I feel so lucky. I went there for like 3 years maybe because we moved around a lot. But you perform a Shakespeare play every year at the age of like 5, 6,
Oh my
7.
gosh.
Yeah, and so I think that is really clearly like set in my love for acting because I knew what it was and I knew how complex it was from such a young age.
That's
Yeah.
incredible training. I mean, to have parents who not only want you to explore that side of yourself, but then put you into these situations so that you can is incredible.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I think my mum was also a screenwriter for a bit, and she's also a poet. So I definitely know how lucky I am to have two really creative parents.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and they've always supported this. They've like I was always like, I want to be an actor, like please, please, and they were like, well, let's see if you enjoy doing theater and
Mm,
dance, and they never pushed me into it. It was I think they were also a bit worried because they also know what it is,
right.
and how hard it is to be an actor. Um,
It makes sense.
mm.
I mean, any parent worries, I feel, if their child goes into a creative field where nothing is certain and guaranteed or anything.
Oh my gosh, yeah, my sister, she is training to be an actor at the moment as well, and I am. When she told me she was doing it, I was like, "Are you sure you want to?" Okay, no, I'm so excited for you. It's so fun. Yay, welcome to the industry. Just like,
You're
be
like,
careful.
but I love you. Please be careful.
Yeah, please, I love you so much.
So what was that turning point for you where you took it into the professional side of acting? How did you get there?
Yeah, I think when I hit 12 and I'd been asking for auditions and for to my parents being like, please, like, Dad, please put me in one of your movies. Like, bear in mind, my dad's like first ADing for like The Matrix and
Oh my
Titanic and like,
gosh.
you know what I mean? Like all these movies where it's like, yeah, I can't. No, that's not something I can do. Mirabai, I can't just put you in the Matrix when you're 1 years old. I was like, why did you never do that? So so I think it got to 12, but I was sort of smart enough to know I had to do this on my own.
Mm,
And I said to him, I was like, I want an agent. She's like, how do you even know what an agent is? I was like, I watch movies. I watch Disney Channel, Mom. I want an
I
agent.
know what this is, dang it, and I need an agent
I
now.
yeah, I've been doing Shakespeare plays for the last like 5 years. Let's do this. And so my mom like got me in touch with an agent, and I joined them when I was like 12. And yeah, it kind of obviously I auditioned a lot
Hmm.
as a teenager, but in New Zealand it's very different to as
Mm,
I imagine it would be for you over there. Like you're not really getting that many auditions. You're getting honestly when I was a teenager, it was probably like a couple of months if
mm,
I was lucky, and there's not this big rush and like, oh, Hollywood, you're gonna make it. It's more just sort of, oh, there might be a role in this New Zealand show. Let's have a go at it. So it was very normal for me all through high school. I lived a very normal high school life, just doing musical theater. And I booked a few jobs, but it seemed more like a hobby where I was like, oh, I get like paid. Great. Like I'll go use this money to watch more movies. So it wasn't really until I, because I graduated school with a scholarship. So I was also very like high achieving.
hmm.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to study like film and English, like write like essays based on books and movies, and that's going to be fun. And I think I was in the midst of that, and I was like, wait, where's acting? And so I
Mm,
decided to just audition and get into drama school and focus on it. And so
yeah.
that was when I was like maybe 21, 22.
Okay.
And after drama school, I think because I had that year of really cementing what I wanted to do, committing to it, and also learning more about, it's not just acting,
Right.
it's not just making, like, playing and doing, just having fun and
Yeah.
it's so much more than that. Which obviously you find out as you get more jobs and you learn along the way. So yeah, it was after then that I started booking more jobs, and it really became, okay, this is something that I want to do
You brought up an
properly.
interesting point about New Zealand film life, right? And how different it is over here. Because over here, it's like a rush. You're right. It's like everything's moving constantly. Things are going. If you're not on the train, then you're missing the boat. It's just, it feels like it never stops. And it sounds so much more quaint and like livable in New Zealand because it can get very stressful here. And it's nice to hear that, especially I feel like in your early years, you've had this experience of being able to be a bit more relaxed about it, which is nice. I can't imagine what it's like, but I wish I could.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's really relaxed in New Zealand, and I think it's both a really great thing, and also as you get older and you start to be like, oh, this is my thing. This is what I love to do, and I'm not being allowed to do it all the time. That gets stressful, but
Mm,
I think for the most part, I will forever be grateful that I got to be like cradled in this industry,
yeah.
in New Zealand. Everyone is just loving and chill, and like there's the other side of that where it's so chill to the point where I've been on shows where like my green room is like the side of the road, like, and like this is a professional paid show, like,
Yeah.
but New Zealand's just so chill. Like I'm like sitting on the side of the road, like eating my bagel and like having a chat to whoever else is
Yeah.
in the crew. It's and I love that about it. It's You don't really get people like, take me to my trailer and I need to like really decompress.
Mm,
Um, which you do also need, though. I will say, having experienced roles where I'm like, I
yes.
really need to decompress.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very valid. There's definitely those roles where you're in situation, you have to put yourself in situations where your brain can't even handle it anymore, and you're like, I need a moment. Please give me a
Yeah.
moment. Um,
Oh my gosh, for sure.
so what was like the first show that you did then as an adult where you were like, oh, I feel like I'm finding my stride and what I want to accomplish as an actor?
Ooh, feeling okay. I think there were some shows that I did that I felt like I was finding my stride, but I
Mm-hmm.
think what really made me feel, oh, I've been given a role that someone's trusted me with a character that I can hold, and that I feel challenged with, was
Mm.
I did a show called The Golf, which I think is a New Zealand German co-pro. But I'm not sure if that's true. But anyway, it's some sort of co-production that we had here in New Zealand, and my character, sh- up until then, I'd played lots of like teenagers. She was a teenager, but sort of just light, fun,
Right.
easy cheerleader. Yeah, fun kind of characters. And so she was the first one that her dad had died, and she was really grieving that and working out sort of where to go from there. And I was just so grateful to have that um, that space to go in and be like, oh, what does that feel like to be in that situation?
Mm.
And I'm such an empathetic person, and I think not all actors are. They have to be. And so that really made me go, oh no, I can do this. I can really do this, and I love doing this. I love being able to understand human experience and these people's situations. And yeah, I think the golf was a real turning point, and knowing and being really confident, and
Mm.
yeah, I've got this. I can do this.
So funny. I experienced the same thing with a film that I did where it was about losing my dad, and I think there's something to that, especially when you've been an actor your whole life. It's like you do get those kid roles, and you get the fun roles, and you get the like I'm a little prop over here role, and my what I do doesn't really conflict in the story or anything. And then you get
Yeah.
something like that where it's like you have to actually put yourself in a situation that you haven't been in, and you're like, whoa, it's it's like life altering. I mean, I feel the same way. It's like that role will always stick with me because it was so difficult not to, necessarily get there, but to live in it. It was difficult to live in it.
Yeah, it is, and that is also something I love. It's it's like whenever I do a role that is requires going somewhere, my body's like, "Whoop, hey, you've tricked me into doing this before, and I don't know if we want to do this." And I'm like, I have to have that conversation with my brain and my body being like, I promise you afterwards, you're going to feel amazing.
Mhm.
Because it's not all just like, oh, like I'm trying to like feel sad. No, it's like we're going to honor this person's experience
Mhm.
because this is so many people's experience. It's really not hard to go there because we're all human, we're all interconnected,
Mhm.
and and let's do this. And sometimes my body, I really that's when directors come in handy because I sometimes I need the director to be like, Mirabai, do you know what's happening? And then immediately it's like a switch. It's like, oh yeah, sorry, yep. I was my body convinced me that we just needed to do this scene smiling.
My body betrayed me. I'm so sorry. I get that though, and it's interesting that you say too about like specific scenes and how it affects you. I remember there was one scene where it's like it was the most heartbreaking scene to film, but the second we were done with it, I was like, "Oh my god, that was my best work. That was the most incredible feeling I've ever had." And it's like so funny as actors where we're like we torture ourselves and then we're like, "That was incredible. Wow."
Yeah, I know. It makes us sound like sadists or something, but it's not. It's catharsis,
It
right? It's
is.
because you pent it up. Everyone does, and it's like free therapy. You get
Truly.
to just like let it all go every time you need to. And oh, yeah.
We're going to take a quick commercial break and then we'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Alison Larkin, and I'm a writer, comedian, and narrator and host of the Jane Austen podcast. This podcast brings Jane Austen's stories to the 21st century, along with commentary from me and conversations with fascinating people who all share a love of Jane Austen. And of course, we had to start with none other than Pride and Prejudice. So join me as we embark on a journey through some of the most wonderful stories I know. The Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
And back to the show. Well, that brings me to my next question that I've been asking people lately because I've loved learning this is, do you have a process when you get a script for an audition? Do you have any little superstitions that you take into the room with you? Is there certain things that you have to do to each script so that you can, understand it however it is that you need to understand it?
I definitely do. When I came out of acting school, I had a million different like techniques that had been given to me, and I would like because I also am such a nerd, I guess, or I love learning. I would try and do all of it to every script
Oh man.
beforehand, which is like who has got time for that? And also like is actually not that beneficial.
Mm.
You're just like getting in your head, and so I've slowly found the thing that really works for me. And at the moment, because I know it's always changing, because
Mhm.
I'm always learning, but at the moment, it's really it's creating memories for my character. Like as soon as I get a
Mm.
script, I first of all I ask, hey, can I get the whole movie or can I get the whole pilot episode or as much as you can give me, please give me. And then I'll read through it and figure out, okay, so these are all the memories that I need to create for my character based on the audition script. So that then when I'm going into the audition, whenever I'm saying, whenever I'm saying, or well, I don't like to think of them as lines, but whenever my character's saying her
Right.
thoughts, she is, um, those memories are there. So the life is already there. I don't have to sort of uh, come up with something in the moment. It's just like set in me. And this isn't something this is from Tanya Nolan from, I think she works here and in LA.
Mm.
She's like part of the Margie Harbour acting
Oh
studio.
yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. So I'm really into that at the moment. Aspects of that. So this isn't the whole technique, but the memories really stuck with me because I think imagination is. I wrote it off for so long because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna substitute and I'm just gonna be really real. But as I've done more learning, I've really realized that actually no, imagination is the same as memories because whenever you remember something, it's just you remembering the last time you remembered it. So it's so easy to be like, hey, brain, here's a new memory. Here are all these memories for this new character. And then you're like, oh, crap, is that actually me? So yeah,
and then
I
you have
really
an
like
identity crisis and you're like, wait, what's happening?
Yes, and then I get too attached to my characters and really get sad when I have to leave them behind.
Yes.
Yeah, I do that, and then also I'm always way too early. Like I'm ready so early
I
that
get
now it's got to the point, where I'm like I try and make myself late because late is 10 minutes early, and it's so uncool to be there for half an hour sat in your car and all these people auditioning that are like walking past and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so desperate, you're here this early.
No, it's called like late anxiety and not wanting to be late.
I don't want to be
I
late.
can't be late. It's so like I always have a book in the car for this reason because I'm like I know I'm going to be
Me
sitting
yeah,
here.
absolutely. It's so good. And I mean, look, there's been moments, I mean, maybe earlier in my career, but maybe still, where I'll get to even set like an hour early and I'll just sit
Hang out.
and like sometimes the crew hasn't even arrived. Like no one's there. I'm like, am I at the right place? I'm like, oh wait, no, I'm like 2 hours early. Okay, cool.
I guess I'll go get a coffee.
Yeah.
Wow.
So time's a big one. I think that's a superstition for me. It's like time.
I get it. I
Yeah.
mean, nobody wants to be late because then that's just a horrible impression on like you as an actor and as a person. And it's just not good to be late. You don't want to keep casting waiting.
No, absolutely not. And I think I really have a fear of wasting people's time as well. Which is, is a hard thing to admit, but something I really realized doing a play recently. Um, I had a few conversations with the director where I was like, but in this moment, don't you think it needs to be faster? I feel like I'm wasting their time. And she's like, hold on, what do you mean you're wasting the audience time? They're here to watch you. They're here to watch this experience. And so I'm trying to turn that around at the moment as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, let's talk a little bit about your new movie. Hello, Evil Dead
Yes.
Rise. Tell me all about it. I'm so excited for this. I am such a horror fan. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm also a horror fan, and so it was such a dream to get cast in Evil Dead Rise. I remember getting the script for the first time and reading it, and I knew it would be a good movie because I love horror, and Lee Cronin, the director writer, he just gets it. You can just tell he's someone that really loves the genre and loves doing what he does. So I had the best time. I really did. It was like I was in heaven. Like I remember after one of my first days of filming, I called like so many of my friends. But I called my brother, well, kind of my brother, and I was like, okay, I was just shaking. I was like driving on my way home and I was like, I just have to tell you I had the best day of my life. He's like, oh, you finished filming? And I was like, I can't explain like how happy I feel. I was like crying and it's I think also because the character goes through a lot, so it's probably also taking a bit of that energy, that like frantic energy into the conversation.
You're still coming down from the high of acting and then you're like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, that's the best feeling ever.
That's amazing. How was the audition process for this film? What was it like for you? Because I imagine it was during pandemic times still a little bit.
Was. Yeah, no, it definitely was. Because when we filmed it, it was sort of pandemic post, kind of in the middle pandemic times. But yeah, I would have auditioned. I actually had an in-room audition for it. It might have been back when New Zealand was like one of the only countries.
Yes.
Like we didn't have any COVID for a while.
I know. I forgot that you guys lived in a magical land.
Yeah, so no one could get in and like we couldn't really get out. So it was a bit like, hey, you're stuck in New Zealand. But lucky for us, it just meant, we were still going to the movies and like to bars and restaurants and
amazing.
And we were still able to audition in room, which was I'm so happy, especially for horror, because I remember doing the audition, and I got the audition, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so much action. Like she turns around and she runs and she sees the thing and she screams. And I mean, I've done those auditions before, but this one felt special because I felt the writing was really really helped that situation. It gave you the imagination that you needed. But yeah, no, I remember going in, and the casting agent was like, okay, this is going to be a really big project, I think, and I think you're good for the role, so let's do a really good audition. And yeah, it was one of those things where I just really had to see everything around me, because I really wanted them to see the fear, and then the screaming. I love screaming. I have like a real guttural scream. So I made sure to like scream a lot, and I was like, is that why I got the role?
Hey,
But
whatever works,
yeah,
right?
exactly, whatever works. I'd actually, funnily enough, like when I was younger, I used to do loop group for like Ash vs Evil Dead.
Oh,
So I used to do all
wow.
the screams. I used to do all the screams for a lot of the characters. So it was nice to actually be in it. But yeah, no, it was just the one audition, and then I didn't hear anything, and so I was like, oh, okay, probably didn't get it then. Fine. Whatever.
I guess I'll move on.
I guess I'll move on. But I think I knew, I thought I would get it, so I was surprised, because it just felt like my character, because she was like, she reads, and she's a bit of a geek, and I studied English at uni, and I just felt like there was so many connections. I was like, this is me. They've written me in a horror film. So then one time I was with my cousin and my godson, and I get a call from my agent, and they were like, oh, you got the role for Evil Dead Rise. And I was like, what? I auditioned for that months ago, but okay, great, let's do it.
You're like, hallelujah, I knew it. I wasn't wrong.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because I feel like you get I don't know. I really get gut feelings when I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this one. And then also gut feelings when I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get this one.
I think there is something to it too. It's like how much you can connect to the character and all that stuff. So when it's like, oh, I know this person, I know this character, I know that I am the only person who can play this. It's true. Like you get that weird feeling where you're like, well, I have it. Not to be like conceited, but it's like, this is me.
Exactly. And I think it's also sometimes when I feel that, but then I look at the character's family that's maybe been cast, and even though I'm like, oh, this character's me, but maybe I don't look like the role. That's when I know, okay, this gut feeling is just like, I want the role, but I don't think I'm going to get cast in this. Whereas, luckily for Evil Dead Rise, she had a cousin, but there wasn't family.
Cousins can be anything, right?
Cousins can be anything, and exactly. So that was, I was happy for that.
Is there any fun stories from set that you can share without spoiling anything for people?
Ooh, I did it with a really good Anna Marie and Richard. You kind of know everyone in New Zealand. So the two actors, the one that plays my cousin and then her boyfriend, we were so like excited to be working with each other. And I just remember like being in the cast tent waiting room or whatever with Richard, and we've worked a lot together. This is maybe like our 5th project together or something. And just sort of, I was like, hey, this is a big one. This is exciting. Like, I don't know if you're a horror fan, but I am, so I know how much this means. And we just like set up our phone, and we actually did like a podcast interview like this, where I was like, I think I was like interviewing him about, I mean, it was very like playful and funny, but we just did that to pass the time until it was like, okay, now we're doing it. And then I was like, oh yeah, okay, get into character. But it was at a beautiful lake as well.
Oh, that's nice.
Like, yeah, like, because they filmed all of it in the studio, and then like the crew got to come out to this lake with us, and they were so stoked. So I feel like we also got the crew on a really like fresh level.
Everyone was excited to be outside and see the sun.
Yes. And oh my gosh, yes, I remember like Mitzi, like one of my favorite makeup artists in the world. She had these big orange sunglasses. And I was just like sitting there like in the sun, sunbathing, like between takes, looking not best for wear without any spoilers.
Interesting.
But and she like gave me her sunglasses, and I was just like sat there just like basking with, I think it's not a spoiler if I say there was like there was blood on me.
Well,
it's a horror.
It's a
like,
horror film. You can say there's blood on
whose
you.
blood was it? We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. Well, I'm so excited to see it, and it's gonna be a hit. Obviously, I mean, it's Evil Dead. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's really good. It really is. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in it. I would be a fan of it otherwise.
Well, on this show, we like to share audition stories. I know you shared your audition for Evil Dead Rise, but is there an audition story that you'd like to share with the listeners that's a bit more chaotic or upsetting?
A bit more chaotic or upsetting. Ooh. I think, oh gosh, like when I was younger, I think that the stories when I'm younger are maybe a bit more interesting because everything hit harder.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was up for like a big New Zealand show, and I was maybe 16 or 15, and it was the lead character, and
Oh,
I'd
wow.
done quite a few auditions, and I really felt like the character was mine, but something felt like, oh, okay, there was a whole and this is why I brought up the family thing, because it's always been something, but there was a whole family that needed to be cast around my character. And I came into like the final audition when they were putting families together, and it was me and one other girl. And I remember going in, and for my family, there was a younger sister who looked like me. She had like brown hair and sort of olive skin, and I was like, yep, cool, she can be my sister. And then there was this little boy who played our little brother, and he was like had like bright blonde hair and like very pale skin and freckles. And I looked at him and I was like, okay, we'll make this work.
Maybe.
Like, that's fine. Like, I was 15, so I was like, or 16, however old I was. I was like, we'll be a family. And I remember absolutely like nailing the audition, like I never had before. Like just being really feeling the character's emotions and being in it and feeling like a big sister that was protecting her siblings. And then I walk out and I saw the other girl that was going for my part, and not only was she older than me, she was like maybe 20 auditioning to play 16, which now that I've been 20 playing 16, I know that it's a safer casting.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, hi. And she had blonde hair and looked like the little boy. And so I was like, oh no. And she went in. And so me and the younger sister came out, but the boy stayed in.
Oh.
And so then she went in, and someone else who would play went in for their audition. And I just knew as soon as I saw them, I left, and I just cried. I just cried. I was like, because I felt the audition. I felt that I did such a good job. And then I remember calling my mum and being like, I don't think I got it, Mom. Like, this older girl who's so much better than me, she went in, and obviously, yeah, I didn't get it. And I don't think it would have been, the one that got it way, but
Right.
it was just when you're young and you don't get something because of what I think was what you look like, that really sucked. And it was the first experience of that.
And
yeah.
those are the
And now I get
hardest. You can get it right, but it's like it's the hardest to get over, especially when you are 15, 16. I have a few stories like that where it's like the trauma just sticks with you no matter
Yeah, I
what.
was like getting a bit teary just then. I was like, gosh, this isn't a chaotic story. This is actually like little Mirabai like coming out and being like, oh my gosh, it used to really hurt.
Yeah. It's because it's, most kids don't experience that type of total rejection, where it's like this large thing that affects many people. It's like, you can lose a soccer game or you can be bad in the talent show, but it's like when you're a professional actor at that age and you lose a job, it's like, whoa, that's a whole job. You can feel it, and you're so connected to the character too that it's like it's heartbreaking when you don't get to actually play it.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, you're so right. It is so hard to do when, especially when you're a teenager, and rejection, like, already you're starting to like maybe date or whatever, and maybe be like rejected by, people that you're dating. But it's like adding that layer of rejection on really does make you question yourself. And I think my mum was worried for a bit about me being an actor and being able to handle the rejection. But then you get a thick skin.
Then you get a thick
and then
skin.
you almost
And then you're just like, everything's great. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you just bury it and you let it come out when you get the roles that you can like
Exactly.
let loose in.
Bury that in, save it up. It's
Bury
like a
that.
bank, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
what's next for you? Are you ever going to come to the States and make a go for it?
I think I will. I think it's been something it's been coming for a while. But I love New Zealand so much. But I think I've got plans. I'm going to be in the States, I think, this year, at some point. And yeah, I love it there. I actually spent a lot of time in LA when I was a bit younger, and it's so different to New Zealand. I mean, I think people are
haven't been to New
so
Zealand, so I don't know.
it's really different.
But I
It's like
imagine
the
it is.
opposite. I think people are probably sick of like New Zealanders coming to America and being like, diners, oh my goodness, like, oh my gosh, things are open past like 5 p.m. or I don't know, like you can't get coffee like after 3 or 2
What?
p.m. in New Zealand. Yeah, it's like we're a proper country, but LA is just, it felt like everything was open and on all the time,
It's
and you
true.
can do whatever you want whenever you want.
It's
So
very
I'm
true.
excited to go back and experience it as like a bit older.
Well, we're
Yeah.
excited to have you back. You got to hit me up when you get over here.
Oh my gosh, I will. I need a friend.
I'm here. I'll take you out. I'll
Thank
show you
you.
all the places. Where can people follow you on social media so they can keep up with you and all the fantastic things you're doing?
They can follow me on Instagram. My name is Mirabai Pease on Instagram, I think. And that's it
That's
for
all
me
you
for
need
social
these
media.
days.
So it's all there. Yeah. Yes.
Everything else has gone downhill. Twitter's out the door. Facebook hasn't been used in
Yeah.
years.
And I don't understand TikTok yet.
I've tried.
Which,
it's not fun.
yeah. I just feel like I get addicted. And I don't want to get addicted.
I get it. Well, I've had such a great time talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I cannot wait to see Evil Dead Rise, and I'm so excited to see what you do because I think you're going to kick ass out here in LA.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun.
Thanks again to Mirabai for coming on the show. Check out Evil Dead Rise in theaters now. Go see it. I'm going to go see it probably tonight. So check it out and tune in next week for another fun-filled episode. And as always, thanks for coming in.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Burntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I uncover the blasphemous truth of a plague-ridden world, that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The Heresies of Radolf Burntwine, coming January 2nd, wherever podcasts are available.